You may not want a history lesson, but what you have done goes against the grain of our American way. The utility companies, nor the PUC, nor anyone has the right to mandate that any consumer buy a product, especially when there's a monopoly in any given area. You have set us up to a point where we cannot, you're telling us we cannot deny these meters to be put on our home, and if we do, we'll go without power. Do you really think we're crazy? We're not crazy. We're Americans, we're Texans, and what you have done is wrong. According to the legislation, you are encouraged to deploy these meters. Nobody told you to do so. You were encouraged to deploy them. You didn't come to the public and ask the public what we thought about them. As far as not happening overnight, it did happen overnight. 2 years is not enough time to know what these meters will and will not do. They have been over in Europe for years, and they're already banning them in other countries. What in God's name made you do it here? This is Texas. We have rights. We have a right to choose whether or not we have an appliance on our home. And you can say that they're not invasive. These documents that I'm going to file with you prove that they are. And the ultimate outcome of this is not just a Texas reliable grid. And everyone can tell us that we're going to keep this grid for Texas only. If this proceeds, we're going to go on a national grid, and then it's going to go international, and then it's going to go global. All the proof is out there. They are lining you up, and if you don't know this already, you need to study it. We are Americans with rights. I don't know what gave you the idea that any of you had the right to control our lives, but that's what you're trying to do. Others can make the argument about the health risks and the privacy risks. I'm here to tell you that what I think you have done goes against the law as it was written. And I, as one American, will not stand by and let a body of bureaucracy deem what is and is not our constitutional rights in this country and in this state. We are not a democracy. We are a republic. A republic means we have representatives. This is not the majority rule. I don't care how many people love these meters. Until you know they're safe and until you know that they will not do the things that we're claiming that they will because we have proof that they will, you don't have the right to force this on us. You didn't have the right to do this to us. And I would think as Americans, you need to stop and think about what you've done to the individual rights. That is what our country is based on. It is not based on what is best for the common good. What you have done goes against the law as it was written, and we will make sure that the law is upheld in this state and in this nation.
Even though we are maybe at a point where we could eventually have appliances in our home and we can choose those or not choose those, the plans for those appliances are for them to when your old appliances run out and you have to buy new appliances, those very well could have the devices on if they're Energy Star related and such like that. And I've been told that legislation can be in place, is being considered for being in trouble for tampering with those devices. So to say it's voluntary, not necessarily. If you want to take that off because you don't want it, you could be ending up with probably fines or something like that, jail or whatever. And the other part about my data belongs to me. I don't know how my electric service provider agreement requires me to give you granular data about the activities in my home, which could very well be picked up with the meter if it's collecting the load signatures. And if there aren't at this time, I know my understanding from some sources is that there's plans for that, so concerning the load data. I believe that creating an opt-out would not solve all the issues inherent with the smart meters. Primarily, I'll touch on negative health effects briefly from neighboring meters, because I know people who are affected by that, and the fragility of the smart grid. As to the negative health effects of people from a neighbor's meter, I'm personally aware of a lady named Donna Wilson in Carrollton who began to have heart palpitations when her neighbor received a meter and her neighborhood received meters. She never got one on her own home. She was able to shield it for a certain amount of time, or learned how to shield it by, reading, instructing herself. Her symptoms did improve when she shielded her home. Regarding and she's only one case of several I've personally heard. Regarding the vulnerability of the grid, smart meters that could be individually hacked or viruses introduced that could cause the downing of power for large areas of the population and damage to sensitive equipment. Neither the grid nor the meters are adequately secure from hackers, from potential cyber terror attacks. You don't have to go far to research examples from reputable sources such as MIT, Scientific American Review, Government Accounting Office, CNN, and FBI, just to name a few. As a quick aside regarding the supposed public education about the meters that we've supposedly received, I was once told by an electric service provider that 89 to 98% cents charge on our electric bills was educating the public regarding the smart meter program and saving money. This equates to about $1 per customer, which if Encore has about 4 million customers, that's $4 million a month for education, at least based on what I was told. If you ask me, consumers have mostly been left in the dark. The TDUs are getting paid to educate the people, and in my book they get an F. In North Texas area, there has been very little education to the general public. For example, most homes never got a flyer stating that the meters were coming, and those that did received very little truly useful information regarding the meters. Great big flyer, very little truly useful information. For example, not only these flyers, but some of the other PUC material states how, and it was stated here today, how now we will be more private because people don't have to enter our property to read our menu, our meter. What they admit is now consumer information is traveling wirelessly through the air, potentially giving hackers opportunity to intercept the usage of information, or building perhaps a profile at your at-home and away times.
First, as we know, it was never the intention of the Texas legislature under HB 2129 to force any ratepayer in this state to have a smart meter installed on their home or business. The PUC's Report 3418, approved May 10, 2007, makes it abundantly clear deployment of those meters would be voluntary for the utility companies, and there are so many references using the word voluntary, not mandatory nor mandate. There is also no federal law forcing anyone to accept a smart meter on their home or water meter. The power companies and TDSPs were given the authority to deploy those meters, but were not required to use that new wireless technology. The power companies and the TDSPs could see the boatloads of money flowing in for those meters and decided to force ratepayers to accept those meters whether they wanted them or not. In my 21 years as a full-time activist, I have never seen such corporate thuggery and threats by corporations as I've seen over these meters. I would think the utility companies, the TDSPs, and the PUCs would welcome a full formal hearing. If everyone is so convinced those meters are safe, why not hold the hearings? I have heard the excuse the hearing would cost too much money. That is a red herring. You're all on salary, as many may not be all of you, but most of you are on salary. This building, the PUC building, are already built and equipped for a full formal public hearing. It's all of us petitioners who've had to spend our money, many of us on fixed incomes, to fight this by hiring an attorney and these numerous talk sessions. If there's nothing to hide regarding the safety of those meters, why not grant our petition and hold the hearing?